presidents go sideways, there is accountability, and it's usually 2 years after they get elected. And I think this might be the very same quotient, because they make promises and they don't fulfill them for reasons we may not even understand. But nonetheless, they're held accountable and should be. It is with spilt blood that we make these changes, that by revolution, we unseat those in power. It's what we did in 1776. So we've got to really do the exact same thing here. But at the end of the day, it's up to us.
Hey, friends, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sean from SGT Report. The night before Memorial Day, let's pray we don't lose any more good men or women to yet another illegal war of conquest that's completely unnecessary in my view. And that brings me to this makeshift debate between my good friend, attorney Todd Callender, and myself. I'm calling this one the Trump MAGA debate. Golden age or gilded cage? Are we nearing the paradise he promised, or a gilded cage many of us never saw coming? And just one quick note, this tentative peace deal we're hearing about with Iran, every single red-blooded Christian American is praying for peace. And I hope it's true, and I hope it holds. But as I record this, Israel has already unleashed new Gaza strikes just after Trump said his Iran peace deal was largely negotiated. So is the tail wagging the dog? Is Trump really in charge? And is Trump really dedicated to making America great again? Or is it Israel first? Thanks so much for being here. Before we start this incredibly important conversation, just a quick word. A bombshell study just revealed that GLP-1 drugs don't actually work the same for everyone. Your genes determine whether the injections work at all and whether you'll suffer the side effects, like blindness. At nearly $1,000 a month, that's a brutal gamble millions of Americans are unknowingly taking. That's why I think you're going to be obsessed with GLP-1 Elevate. Instead of a pharmaceutical gamble, it uses clinical studied plant-based ingredients like metabolate to help your body naturally boost its own GLP-1 signals, the ones controlling hunger and fullness. No prescription, no needles, no genetic lottery, no terrifying side effects. You'll get fewer cravings, you'll feel fuller faster, and you'll actually keep the results without the metabolic crash. Get 51% off right now at trimwithsgt.com. Every order includes free VIP coaching for life, a 60-day money-back guarantee, and free express shipping with subscription. Head to trimwithsgt.com right now before the offer expires. The link is below. Guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for finding us wherever you have. We very much appreciate it. Sean from SGT Report. And today I'm very, very glad to bring back on the show a longtime friend, a kindred spirit to be sure, attorney Todd Callender. And in this one, I might just title it, Where Do We Go From Here? Because I'm kind of fed up, and Todd still sees our cup as half full, which I just literally said to him before I hit record, guys. Then please talk me off the ledge, Todd. Todd, please talk me off the ledge, brother. How are you?
I'm doing fine. You know what? I'm happy to be here because we are still here, Sean. Despite all of the odds and all the efforts to eradicate us and pull us off the internet so we can't talk to anybody, get our message out, we're still here. So I'm fabulous. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. God love you. So here's my thoughts, and then I'm going to get to the second bullet point regarding Trump. But Massey's opponent, Zio Ed in Kentucky, 95% of his donations came from outside Kentucky, from you know who.
Yeah,
and
dirty pool.
I'm sorry?
It's dirty pool. Man,
yeah, I think
it shouldn't happen. I mean, come on. Anyway,
well, they stole it because you riddle me this, and please explain to me how this guy that nobody heard of, he refused to do a single debate. He increased his voter turnout by some 350% plus over the guy Massey beat in the last primary, and got 10,000 mail-in votes. And I was listening to Megyn Kelly on Sirius Satellite Radio the other day, recounting all of this. You know how these newsreaders, even Megyn Kelly, who's sort of quasi-alt media now, but she's really not. I was listening, and through that smile that they all deliver, whether it's Fox News, as they deliver you bad news, through her smile, she said, let's be frank, Massey got his ass kicked. And I'm like, can you just be honest with the people about the 340% and the 10,000 mail-in ballot? I mean, that's BS. But anyway, this guy wants a draft. The Zio candidate, Ed, he wants a draft, and we have a 19-year-old son. And I can tell you, I will not send my 19-year-old son to go to Iran and die on the battlefield or anywhere else in one of these illegal wars. And I told my son that. I said, I'd sooner see you in jail or I'll get you out of the country before I let that happen. So, your thoughts on first that stolen election and this Zio candidate that literally nobody in Kentucky donated to?
Well, first, I like Thomas Massey. I love people who ask hard questions, and he did that. I also love people who support the Constitution because it's by virtue of that that we exist. Our country exists. 250 years later, we still persist because of that instrument and those who created it. And it's been bastardized since. It's something you learn early in law school, something called the dormant commerce clause. It's just a bunch of dirty lawyer tricks that ended us where we are, including the very subject you talk about, which is 343 or 350% increase in turnout, mail-in ballots. And I think they only generally got 30 or 40,000 people to vote in that particular primary historically. And all of a sudden it's increased by tens of thousands of votes. That is, the epitome of campaign finance violations, at least in theory. The laws have not changed and only add to effectively the ability of corporations or foreign interests, for that matter, to finance their candidate, whether they're existing or new, to do their bidding. So I have a huge problem with what happened in relation to Thomas Massey, irrespective of how that interplays with President Trump. And our Congress is really mired by this. You got bureaucrats and politicians that have been in government for ages. And the permanent bureaucracy is as much of a problem. Career bureaucrats are as much of a problem as our career politicians. We get old people stuck in there that are on the take, whether they're on the bench or whether they're on a regulatory agency. All of it has to be refreshed. No different than our founders said, it is with spilt blood that we make these changes, that by revolution we unseat those in power. It's what we did in 1776. So we've got to really do the exact same thing here. But at the end of the day, it's up to us to stop that. It is up to our individual powers. Where was it, for example, the bankers or the people involved who said, where's this money coming from? Where's the source of funds? Why are we getting this? Where are the campaign finance people looking into this, whether that's the DOJ or the state authorities? Everybody has a role to play to limiting this kind of influence over what's supposed to be our sole dominion, including replacement migration, where it's not just anecdotal to the Thomas Massey race, but in a broader sense to our elections generally. Replacement migration, and now the Democrats want to give people voting rights, even though they're not even here legally. It's a much bigger problem because at the end of the day, it's the control of the government that appeals to a certain type of personality, which seeks to control us all. And it's exactly opposite of what we need. Back in the original days, we had volunteers in Congress. Right? They were there because they believed in the proposition, they believed in the idea, and it's that idea that survives. We just have to take it back. And I think people should be looking into this particular race, irrespective of President Trump's endorsement of Mr. Massey's opponent. It has to be looked at. But I do love one thing that came out of this. All they did was strengthen his resolve. He said, I got 8 more months to get to the bottom of things, and I'm going to do that. God bless him for asking those hard questions and looking into things that nobody wants to touch.
Yeah, and we're going to get to this later in the conversation regarding these. I guess the number is 4,267 AI data centers. I've heard 5,000 or more, but I want
Yeah.
people to understand that it was Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene
Yep.
alone
Another
who
one.
got the AI data center immunity for 10 years pulled from the big, beautiful, stinking bill. If it weren't for those two, the AI data center coming to your state, folks, well, just like vaccine companies, they can do whatever the hell they want to, and the
Right.
states can't regulate them. So no wonder Trump hates the guy. I mean, just my opinion. And a follow up on that, I really firmly believe that Donald J. Trump, who I voted for, who so many red blooded Americans voted for, who now feel betrayed, Trump has squandered his chance, our chance, to bring about a multi decade MAGA sea change for this country. Because look at the polls, Todd. He's loathed. He's absolutely
Well,
loathed. And he took 250 million from the casino lady. And did you hear her whisper in his ear the other day? if you run again in 2028, I'll give you another 250 million.
Now I met Alan Dershowitz, and he said the legal thing about 4 more years, and I said, Alan, I agree with you, so we can do it. Think about it.
Alan's here.
Think about it.
Thank you.
Maybe I will be first one who told you, or second. Yeah.
She said, think about it. I'll give you another 250, but...
I mean,
yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry,
exactly
but
what I'm talking about.
It sounds like he's bought and paid for to so many of us.
Well, which ones aren't? Apparently,
he's
Thomas
the
Massey
president,
isn't.
though.
I'm not disagreeing your point
He was
at
our
all.
last chance. I mean, I felt like we needed a Hail Mary.
That's not true, though.
And
It's
I
not
always
our
said,
last
though,
chance.
but I always said, I don't know what lies in the man's heart, but I'm hearing his words and he's saying the right things. As people would tell me, like Jeff Berwick, you sent me a clip. I'll play it later. We got a clip from Jeff Berwick.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And Jeff
Love
Berwick
him.
knew what was up with Trump. And I feel like so naive. No, Trump, we got to give him a chance. And I feel very, very betrayed because who's running this country right now? Is it Bibi Netanyahu? Because
No.
Trump just said the other day his polling is so good in Israel, maybe after this gig is up, he'll go to Israel and become prime minister. Now, people can say that's satirical, but I'm
No.
not so sure.
I take it as a threat. I take it as a threat, exactly. So a couple things in relation to this. First, let's lay the groundwork. No man is perfect, right? I follow God, not men, because God is the only perfect being in this universe, in this existence of ours. But we can look at the good and the bad independently, right? All of us have faults. All of us have good parts about us that are helpful to others and beneficial to ourselves and our families. I want to start with the groundwork, which is that, but for his entrance to the political landscape of the United States, either by virtue of the first term in office or by the second one, either way, his existence by itself was so disruptive that we would not be here but for him actually doing it. Secondarily, take into account what it actually took to do that, for him to get into office. Think about, you're a businessman. There's a lot of people on here are business people who actually write paychecks and know how hard it is to write a paycheck and how hard it is to earn money. My friend Peter Tickton, also a lawyer, reminded me of this. Do you know how hard it is to make $1 billion, much less more than $1 billion, and stay in the lines, color within the color of the law, the lines of the law? They spent untold millions of dollars trying to send him to jail and could not, because he actually followed the law. Despite all the challenges, despite the attempts on his life, he persisted for the purpose of giving us the chance to take our nation back. We are looking to him to solve the freaking problems. You know what? He gave us the opportunity in his first speech. He said, his very first speech as president in the first term, I'm giving the power back to the people. The problem is us.
No,
Where
I couldn't disagree more, brother. And I'm going to tell you why. You know how much I love you. We've been friends for a long time. I disagree. I completely disagree.
Please.
A family is only strong as the father and the mother. And if the father is the leader of the house and he's an abusive alcoholic, and I'm not sure how you raise great kids that way, and we all feel like our leader, our Hail Mary, our last chance to make this country great, has now put Israel first. And I'm not sure how people avoid that. I'm not sure how people ignore that when he promised us no more wars, specifically no war with Iran. And here we are, Todd. And guess what? If there's a draft, if there's boots on the ground, they want to draft 18 to 24-year-olds, which the Zio candidate Ed is all about. He wants a draft mandatory.
First and foremost, I get your point. That's fair. And I love the fact that we're having this conversation. This is exactly what needs to happen amongst people everywhere. And somehow we lost this as a function of COVID, frankly, because we never got together anymore, right? They isolated us in our houses and whatever else. But this is exactly the debate we have to have. What I'm trying to say is this. You're looking anecdotally at that particular issue, and I can't disagree with you. I don't want my son getting drafted either, despite the fact that I served in the government.
Can I stop you before you move on to the other issues? That is the biggest issue of our time. The energy prices are going to be out of control if this isn't brought to an end.
No,
and if he escalates it and puts boots on the ground, then we're talking about a potential World War III. Now, if Biden had done this, do you not think the base, our base, the MAGA base, wouldn't be screaming bloody murder in the streets?
Of course, but you're not letting me get to the point. The point is simply this. Yes, there is a threat of boots on the ground. Has that happened yet? This is clearly something that Bibi Netanyahu wanted. Tel Aviv wanted not only boots on the ground, they wanted to launch nukes onto Iran and obliterate, as did the Saudis. Has that happened yet? And the
Well,
answer
as
to your
did
question
Trump.
is no.
As did Trump, and it was Ragin' Kane who said, "Get out of here. We're not talking about nukes."
And then there was a report out that they had an emergency meeting Saturday night. And apparently, well, one report coming out of that meeting at the White House is that Trump wanted to use the nuclear codes, and General Dan Kane stood up and said no.
Okay, but has that happened? Yes or no?
Well, he wanted to, and Kane said, "Get out of here."
Hang on. Hang on. First and foremost, I haven't heard him say I want to nuke Iran, but I certainly
No, but he's
heard
not
John
going to tell
McCain
us
say
that.
it.
But if Kane said that and it got out to CIA, whistleblowers, and then to Robert Barnes, I mean, it's a credible statement. I don't know if he said
that is three parts removed. There's a reason why we don't allow hearsay evidence into court, because that is the epitome of hearsay, right? It's why it's not valid evidence, because you're taking statements 3 times removed from the man himself. Let's look at the deeds as they are. It is true that he attacked Iran, and in the first case, it was a very limited attack. I think it was all 3 bombs went on their nuclear facilities. Obviously, that didn't solve the problem for whomever was involved. So we end up having a bigger, broader issue, the consequences of which may not be apparent to everybody, including the fact that there's a bigger game here. I hate to say it, but it is the Game of Thrones. It's the game of world domination that we have suffered for thousands of years. China is now effectively crippled and now rethinking whether they want to have allegiances with Iran, because Iran is the choke point for energy. And right now, that is what drives the world economy, probably always will. But the consequences you make mention of, right, as it relates to a potential draft or a potential nuke or potential people going to war in Iran, none of that has happened. Let us deal, please, with facts in evidence. The facts are we haven't had boots on ground. We haven't nuked them. In fact, there's been a standoff now for, 3 or 4 weeks. They are working towards peace. So let's deal with the facts, not what may be. There isn't a draft at this moment. Could there be? Yes, but we will deal with that. Our system of governance you just talked about, people stopped the big bad bill that would have allowed for data centers without any unbridling. Our government did that. That is the beauty of how it works and why it works and why we don't have emperors, despite their best efforts.
Well, Massey and MTG did, and he got them both out. He hates them both. And let me just say a couple other, if the war with Iran is not paramount in this conversation, then let's talk about the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the cover-up, which the FBI is fully on board with. So again, who helped this man get elected? Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson, Alex Jones, Candace Owens. Who does he hate? All of those people. Thomas Massey helped him. Who does he hate? Thomas Massey. Who does he love? Mark Levin. I'm sorry, man. I'm just calling the balls and strikes.
No, exactly as you should.
And I'm starting to wonder, is he going to go down in history as worse than Benedict Arnold, or will he emerge as some trust the plan hero? Right now, the data is lining up to suggest he's a Benedict Arnold, and that's the way I see it.
Yeah, well,
and I want you to talk me off the ledge. I really do.
No, this is really healthy. This is exactly the point of it all, and this is the means by which we correct the course, right? For people to understand these things and pick out these little issues to correct them. All I want to impart to you is this, and I agree with a lot of the things that you said, most everything that you said. That is going off the rails and going the wrong way. However, what I want you to understand is this: there is a civil war inside of our government. And there are holdovers that sabotage any kind of, for instance, reconciliation. How do we get accountability for things past? How do we stop these kinds of things? Foreign investment, it's because that's what it is in our elections, things of that nature. The permanent bureaucracy, those in power, not just our country, but globally, seek to program to be done. The WEF model, and it is true. There are things that Mr. Trump is doing that look like they support that. On the other hand, there are areas where that is being subverted, the first and foremost of which was closing the frickin' borders and exporting a bunch of illegal immigrants who were here to destroy us. So if we're going to point out the bad things, we have to, at the same time, be intellectually honest enough to point out the good things.
And
it's too easy.
But hold on now. Let me respond to that, because guess what? The illegals are now not being exported. And who did they build all those ICE detainment centers for? ? Think about it, folks. Not sure, but in addition to that, the man just fast-tracked the AI data center permits.
Yeah, that
By the way,
bothers me a great deal.
I'm sorry, man. I just am not seeing it the way you are, or my neighbor who's a boomer who just told me the other night at dinner that they love Erica Kirk and they can't stand Candace Owens. And I just want to say, not sure how many of you have seen the Iran AI video regarding the U.S. government murdering Charlie Kirk. Well,
No,
whether
I
or
haven't
not
seen
you
it. I'd love
believe
to.
that,
Can you play it?
do you want me to look for it?
Yeah, would you please? Because I want to see that. Look, I love Candace. I love what she's brought up because it's the freaking truth. I mean, and she brings evidence to support her statements that I can get behind. I love it. That's exactly what we need is the light of day. It's why we have sunshine laws in all the 50 states and the Freedom of Information Act, is because it's up to us to uncover the truth and expose it. All I'm trying to say to you is it's easy to point to that guy and say it's because of him that we have all of these problems. Okay, fine, I get your point about leadership, but at the end of the day, it's our freaking country. They work for us. Where is our involvement? And it's a few people like yourself, like Candace, that are pointing it out. And that's exactly the point. To this moment in time, Sean, we still have the freedom of speech, which is the single most important thing, second only to the guarantee of that freedom of speech, which is our Second Amendment rights. That beyond that, if we didn't have those, we would have long ago become a monarchy. And by virtue of those things right now, we're having this conversation and we can correct course. So let's at least give them credit for that part, that we have that while the whole rest of the world is now arresting people for thought crimes.
I can't. I cannot do what you just said. If he had done the things he promised he would do when he was running, I would be all on board. He's not done a lot of those things. So I do want to follow up. When you say, and I quote, we would not be here were it not for him.
Yes,
tell me what you mean, because I feel the same way. We would not be here were it not for him. Biden resisted a new war with Iran, right? He was pressured to do that. Now, hold on, though. I just want to say regarding the Iran AI video, that video reveals the same stuff that's being revealed by researchers that have really gone hard in the paint on this thing since September 10th. Not just Candace Owens, but so many other, Baron Coleman, so many other people doing great work researching this because our own government refuses to. In fact, our own government is covering up so badly that Tyler Robinson's defense team has still not been given any of the disclosure that they need to properly defend Tyler Robinson,
Motion to dismiss,
including the alleged weapon used, the 30-06, which leads me to this point. It seems very clear to researchers now, not proven, but pretty darn clear, that what happened to Charlie Kirk was not the result of a 30-06.
Yes, for sure.
What appears to be the case is that there was an explosive, call it a shaped charge, but some sort of exotic explosive in his microphone.
Yes.
Built by Accurate Energetic Systems in Tennessee.
That burned down a month later.
It blew up a month later, and everyone inside, every witness that could testify was murdered, killed. So here's the point. $400,000 DOD contract to Accurate Energetic Systems, I think 90, 120 days, something like that, before Charlie's murder. We're told the leading theory now is that that device misfired or malfunctioned. It was supposed to blow a hole in Charlie's chest, which would be way more consistent with a 30-06. It misfired, hit his neck, and then they had a huge problem. There was no exit wound. And guess what? All of those microplastics, the plastic shrapnel, embedded itself in the cement right below Charlie. Thus, within 48, 72 hours later, they paved over the crime scene.
I mean, to do pavers correctly, you over excavate. You get rid of the topsoil.
Oh, you do?
You do, 100%. Okay. You want to get a good base. And these guys had kind of, there was two guys in charge and a ragtag crew. One of the guys was in charge of a state-owned facility in American Fork. And the other guy was in a maintenance groundskeeper on a facility in Provo. And these are the two guys I'm corresponding with. The first guy, the second guy that I hadn't talked to on the phone basically said, hey, look, we're not talking to anybody. We're not saying anything to the media. He says this is above our pay grade. The FBI and the state, the governor and the FBI, that's what they told me. The governor and the FBI said they want this done by Monday, and we need to get it done.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to suss this out. I don't know how to pretend that this guy is still a hero when they're covering up the
how are you imputing that? How are you imputing that to President Trump?
Are you kidding me? Pete Hegseth's plane, the VIP plane that Hegseth uses,
Yeah.
is now, they've got the flight data on this stuff.
Yes.
Shortly after that, Accurate Energetic Systems blew up,
Yes.
exactly 1 month after they killed Charlie Kirk on September 10th. Somebody
Yeah.
killed Charlie Kirk. It certainly wasn't Tyler Robinson. Hegseth's plane is recorded flying over Accurate Energetic Systems, almost to just make sure it was vaporized.
2 weeks after Charlie Kirk is murdered, tons of people saw this where I'm like, oh, that was a weaponized lavalier microphone that blew up, and that's what killed Charlie Kirk. The thing went massively viral. 2 weeks after that, AES, this production facility that delivered the micro explosives to the DOD, satisfied the order. It explodes October 30th, which is 2 weeks after I released this video about an explosive killing Charlie Kirk. The day that this thing blows up, tail number 99-0404, the plane almost exclusively used by the Department of War Secretary Pete Hegseth, that morning, that plane left Joint Base Andrews and went to Fort Huachuca. At the time that this thing was smoldering after it had just blown up, the plane that Pete Hegseth almost exclusively uses detours on its way to Joint Base Andrews to fly directly over the AES manufacturing facility that satisfied a $440,000 micro explosive order just ahead of Charlie Kirk's death, which blew up 2 weeks after I said, hey, explosives killed Charlie Kirk. And it flew over this part of eastern Tennessee where there's nothing else but this thing. When that thing exploded, every employee on the inside died. 23,000 pounds of explosives blew up, killing everybody inside.
So I'm not
That's
sure
some
how
pretty
you
wild
separate.
speculation as to why his airplane.
Yeah, well, it
flying
is
over
speculation, but it's all
Tennessee.
it's speculation, but it's also research that you're never going to get or hear from the
isn't
FBI.
speculation? What isn't speculation is this. Let's go back to the facts and evidence. It's impossible that Charlie Kirk was killed by a 30-06. That piece of lead travels at better than 3,000 feet per second, and it would have exploded his neck. And there is no bullet anyway. It's impossible. Not to mention that the weapon wouldn't fire. So that's gone. And by the way, I'm telling you as a lawyer who has practiced criminal law for a long, long time, they cannot convict this guy in a legitimate court, starting with the words legitimate, without giving access to potentially exculpatory evidence or even evidence itself. They can't. The court is obligated to dismiss the case. And when the case is rested by the prosecution, the defense will automatically motion for a summary judgment in favor of the defendant because of all of the defects in the prosecutor's case, including their unwillingness to provide the discovery. So assuming that our court system works like it used to, he's not going to go to jail because it's a fraud. It's a fraud upon the court. And all of those DOJ attorneys who are prosecuting this case should be disbarred because it's an ethical violation. You cannot do that. It undermines the system of justice, right? And therein lies the issue. Our government is a freaking mess. All of the rules are effectively gone. And I told you this when I wrote my book about medical martial law, Disease X medical martial law, is it lays out all the dirty lawyer tricks that eradicated, that revoked our Constitution. In fact, it revoked human rights. And when there are no rules, much less any that are being observed, this is precisely what we see. It's almost like it's every man for themselves, and morals and principles are out the freaking window. It is up to us to reestablish that, is what I'm trying to say to you. We can look for leadership. We can look for government. Government is never the fucking answer, pardon me. It is always up to us. And for millennia, borders have changed on countries. Countries have changed because of this very issue. There is nothing new here. When governments no longer work for the people, they get replaced. And that is the danger that they run. They have lost credibility. We have lost trust in leadership, as demonstrated exactly what you're saying. And I'm not disagreeing with a lot of what you're saying. All I'm saying is that our existence at this moment in time is because he so disrupted the plan for our extinction that he gave us a chance to fight. I'm only asking you to recognize that. I'm not saying he's without fault. And absolutely, I agree with you as it relates to this fraud, the death of Charlie Kirk. It's impossible what it is they're saying. And it is nothing other than a fraud for which it should be prosecuted against those trying to perpetrate it.
Yeah. And the follow-up question would be, if what I just said was sensational and speculative regarding Accurate Energetic Systems and the DOD contract and Hegseth's plane and misfiring. And
sensational may be accurate.
Well, they paved over the murder scene, but you called it speculative. So let me ask you, but I want you to speculate. If it wasn't Tyler Robinson, who done it?
Well, first and foremost, what I said was speculation. Is you made the statement that Hegseth's plane flew over Tennessee to surveil what happened to the factory. We don't know why it flew over there. That's speculation. You're imputing that as being his motive. May
Well,
or may
that's
not
only
be.
I'm only imputing that. I'm only imputing that because I think the government was behind the assassination of Charlie Kirk because they're
Which
covering
government?
it up.
Which government? I'm
Trump's
just
government.
saying. Well, there might be more than one.
Oh,
because
well,
you-
don't
right?
misunderstand. Don't misunderstand. I firmly believe the Israelis were involved, which is why Bibi Netanyahu came out first before any world leader, including Trump, and said Israel had nothing to do with this.
Well,
That's
hang
not
on.
suspicious at all.
Hang on. Wasn't it in the Jerusalem Times 8 days prior to his assassination that he'd been assassinated?
Is that right?
Yeah, as my recollection is accurate, it was clearly in advance. Something tells me it was 8 days in advance, and that's the paper that I remember. But it may or may not be. The point I'm trying to make is this: in Israel, there was a media outlet in advance of his assassination that said he'd been assassinated. That's called a plan, right?
All right. Well, then we both agree that it's almost without a doubt Tyler Robinson didn't do this. He did not act alone.
Of course
He's
he
a
didn't.
patsy, just like Lee
He was a
Harvey
patsy.
Oswald.
Yeah. Yes.
And the government is covering that up because they continue
Yes.
to try to pin this on him, which means the government is culpable in the cover-up, which means the government
Yes.
doesn't want the people to know who done it.
Yes, that's all accurate. All
This
that I
is
agree
Trump's
with.
government we're talking about.
Well, okay, so he's elected to that position, but the permanent bureaucracy has
come
been there
on.
for 30 or 40 years. And I'm just trying to tell you this. There are many examples of things that he said, like, I want this done because I'm the president. I'm telling you I want this done. That doesn't get done. I've seen it personally, up close and personal. He's there for 4 years. The permanent bureaucrats are there for 30 years. Right? All they got to do is mark time, exactly what they did the first time that he was in office, and seeking to change things back to the way they were supposed to be. And he got almost nowhere. Why? Because those in power are never going to freely give up power. It's hardly any different than the United Kingdom, where the sun never set when it was England. Nothing has changed, right? All of those Commonwealth countries are still colonies because power never gives up until it's taken away. That was his mission. And all I'm trying to say is I see anecdotal evidence that he is actually taking power away from the global governance, the mission for our eradication. I'm not saying he's perfect. I'm not saying there are horrible things. I hate AI almost more than anything. Here we have another pandemic coming, but I'll give you an anecdotal thing that shows there are parts of our government that still are working. So Fauci, otherwise known as Anthony Fauci, his associate is number 2 guy in the bioweapons program, gets picked up smuggling pathogens into our country. They had like 12 vials of pathogens. I think one of them included Ebola. He gets picked up by none other than our FBI. There are good agents, there are good law enforcement, no different than there are bad ones. It's just, all I'm trying to say is I think it's a little bit unfair to impute every malady, every wrong that we have in our country to the guy who was politically appointed for 4 years when you've got a den full of vipers that have been there for 30 or longer.
Well,
that's all
fair.
I'm trying to say.
No, and that's fair. And here's the thing for the audience. This combative conversation we're having is between two friends. You know what's interesting, Todd? Buddies can do this kind of thing and still be buddies. A lot of times, I'm not trying to be sexist, but sometimes women have these and then they're not friends anymore. And
I love you, brother.
appreciate you, but let me press you on one other thing.
Please.
I am blaming Trump for all of this and Charlie Kirk's assassination because Charlie Kirk adored the man. Charlie Kirk was in the Oval Office for 2 days begging the man not to go to war with Iran. Charlie Kirk was murdered after helping the man get elected. This man has done nothing to bring the real perps to justice regarding the murder of Charlie Kirk. Furthermore, this man loves Erica Kirk, continues to embrace and prop up Erica Kirk and Mark Levin while loathing Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and driving out of Congress Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey. So reconcile.
None of that I can support. No, I can't support
but my
any of
point is that you're giving Trump a pass on, I can't blame him for Charlie Kirk. Meanwhile, he loves and props up Erica Kirk.
Well, those are two different. Those are two different.
Well, no, it's not.
Two different things.
No, it's not, because if you follow the investigation into this thing, Erica Kirk looks like she's up to her eyeballs in this. Her mother is a spook. Her father was a spook running guns and weapons to Israel. So no. Erica Kirk does not get a pass. And Trump loves her and hates Candace, who's investigating all of this. So he does not get a pass on the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Okay, fine.
All
Well,
right. Well, I want to say it. Well, I want to say it because you know who's not saying that? You know who's not saying that? And they're
no,
telling
who's
us
not saying that?
they're telling us to continue to trust the plan. X-22.
No, wait. Before you get there, just please show me what the Persians produced. I really want to see that because it goes to the broader issue that I'm talking about. God love them, right? Like they're getting bombed and they're doing the best they can to do what to educate the rest of us. And if they have an opinion, I want to hear their opinion because it should figure into our calculus, their perspective. So if you wouldn't mind, if you got that dug out, I want to see it.
I know, and I've been looking for it. Let me
Oh,
show
okay.
you.
All
No, no,
right.
no.
Never
I
mind.
want to show you this. I've been looking for it while we're talking, guys. I produce on the fly, and I typed in Iran AI videos, and X is not offering those up easily anymore. I typed in
Wow.
Iran AI Charlie Kirk. They're not offering it up, and you know why they're not offering it up easily anymore? Because X is now being moderated by a literal IDF soldier. They have IDF at X, folks.
What?
Yeah. Oh, look
Oh,
it up,
dear
Todd. And
God.
I'll tell you what, that's the other thing. I've got 130,000 followers on X forever. I don't gain new followers. And my reach, my typical reach is like 2,000 people. Meanwhile, I saw somebody the other day do a pretty, generic post. The guy had 2,000 followers. He got 45,000 engagements.
Yeah.
So the game is rigged, man.
Yeah, it is rigged. Yes, it is absolutely rigged. I couldn't agree more.
Well,
Yes.
I
I mean,
tell you
I
what,
suffer it myself.
I make the promise right now that before I post this, I will try to find that Charlie Kirk AI
Would you?
video made by
Yeah.
Iran. I will try very hard. I'll probably find it. If I find it, I'll put it in right here. Hey guys, just real quick for podcast listeners, I searched and searched for that AI Iranian Lego video about Charlie Kirk's assassination for 2 hours. And then again on Sunday for another 3 hours. I reached out to Ray at BitChute. He couldn't find it either. It has been scrubbed from the internet.
Yeah, please do. Yeah,
Okay.
great. Okay,
So
go ahead with your other one if you don't
yeah,
mind, because
so
I
I don't
love
know.
this
If
stuff.
you guys just saw the AI video from Iran regarding the murder of Charlie Kirk by the U.S. government, well, then I'm happy I found it. And if not,
By
I'm
the
really
way,
sorry.
I make mention of it often. For example, the war in Vietnam. They first and foremost didn't call it a war, but it is a war. It was predicated on a complete fraud. It was completely made up. There was no Gulf of Tonkin incident. So I'm not saying our government's without fault. God knows they're full of fault all over the place. All I'm trying to say is it's easy to impute it to one man, and where he is culpable or liable, he should be held as such. I'm not disagreeing that. I don't like broad brushstrokes because they're not specific enough for my liking. That's
Okay,
all.
well, let me follow up on that because it was McNamara who said on the record that yes, the Gulf of Tonkin incident was hoaxed,
Yes,
faked to draw
yes,
the United States into war. Well, where have we
yes.
seen that before?
Well,
9/11?
sure. Well, how about Iraq?
And who was behind
Weapons of
9/11? Well,
mass
I assure you it
destruction.
wasn't Osama bin Laden. It was probably the
Had
Israeli
nothing to
government, the
do with
Mossad, and the CIA.
had nothing to do with Tim Osmond, aka Osama bin Laden, as I understand it.
So, what have you bumped on that you think is a little bit too general? Because I think Trump is up to his eyeballs in this. And for those that don't believe that, he took $250 million from the casino lady who promises him another
That bothers me.
250 million if he runs again in 2028, which would be completely unconstitutional.
Well, that bothers me for a lot of reasons, including where we started off with this whole thing, which is that there's got to be real campaign finance. There's got to be term limits because at the end of the day, what I said was power never gives up power freely. You've got to take it back, and that always costs blood, amongst other things. And this is a precisely the point. She demonstrates. I think Adelson is her last name, if memory serves.
That's right.
Where you can buy a president, it's just a function of price, or you can buy a congressman, or you can buy a lobbyist, or whatever. And by the way, as it relates to our Congress and politicians generally, they're actually very inexpensive. Only like 10 grand to get something
Oh,
done.
it's so pathetic.
Is ridiculous. So when you see George Soros in this world coming in and buying up district attorneys and having an effect on our law enforcement, that's unbelievable to me that can even happen. He's not even an American. Even if he was an American, how the hell is that possible that we tolerate that? So you and I are on the same sheet of music as it relates to this. That is absolutely evil in every respect, and it's anti-human and it's anti-American, and it's got to be fixed. All I'm saying is that we're the ones responsible for that fix. When I say we, it's the individuals in the position who can make a difference, who refuse to do it because they're worried about their paycheck or they're worried about what other people are going to think. People are caught like deer in headlights standing there when they have the power to do something individually, including the guy who's fueling up the chemtrail airplanes, right, or loading the chemicals on the airplane, why are they not doing something? Why are they not stopping? How about the pilots flying the damn things? We all have the ability in our lives to make a difference. All I'm saying is when we fail to do that, we shouldn't wonder how we got here.
Sorry for the quick break. Imagine checking your lab results and your doctor looks genuinely surprised in a good way. Cholesterol, better. Inflammation markers, down. Joints, feeling better. That's what thousands of native path krill oil users are reporting, and it all comes from one tiny soft gel a day. Research shows fish oil is 50% less absorbable than krill oil because fish oil's omega-3s are in triglyceride form, where krill oils are in phospholipid form, which is the same format your cell walls are made of. That means krill oil gets into cells immediately. In head-to-head studies, krill oil outperformed fish oil at improving cholesterol, reducing inflammation, and easing joint pain, often at lower doses. Native Path Antarctic Krill Oil is sourced from pristine Antarctic waters, contains the powerful antioxidant astaxanthin, and comes in a tiny soft gel. No fishy bumps. For my special bundle offer plus free shipping, head to getkrill.com/SGT. That's getkrill.com/SGT. You can try it risk-free with a 365-day money-back guarantee. The link is below.
We all have the ability in our lives to make a difference. All I'm saying is when we fail to do that, we shouldn't wonder how we got here.
Let me ask you this, though. One thing I just continue to bump on that you said is that this idea that, the power has been returned to we the people. Trump returned the power to we the people. It's up to us. Well, what are we to do when we elect a man who tells us everything we want to hear and then does largely none of it? And we're going to get to the trust the plan guys in just 1 second.
Oh, well,
but
there's the
but
midterms.
listen, what are the farmers and the working class people and the blue collar people and the people that don't have $500 for an emergency supposed to do when they vote for people that say one thing and do another? What are we supposed to do, Todd? What are those people supposed to do?
Well, that's what
How
the
do those
midterms are
people
about.
take our government back? How do those people take a wholly corrupt government back?
Yeah, well, that's a broader question, but let's talk about what they're supposed to do in the meantime. And you would see this, where presidents go sideways, there is accountability, and it's usually 2 years after they get elected. And I think this might be the very same quotient because they make promises and they don't fulfill them for reasons we may not even understand. But nonetheless, they're held accountable and should be. And that's precisely what happens. Is the reason why we have three co-equal branches of government: the judiciary, the legislature, and the administrative. And it's easy to look at the president as being solely responsible for everything. But there are two other branches of our government that hold them accountable in their own way, either by stifling spending or by making new laws that are separate and apart and override executive orders, or judiciary decisions that say, hey, you went too far, you can't do it, it's unconstitutional. Now, I will agree with you. A lot of those systems aren't functioning the way they were designed to function. But
Yeah.
Our nation is still here 250 years later, Sean. So something must be going right. And as it relates, because you asked a bigger issue, what is it mom and pops are supposed to do when their farms are being taken away or things of that nature? All laws mean nothing without law enforcement. Chief law enforcement officer in our country is the sheriff. The sheriffs are elected by the people. There is no law without law enforcement. They cannot come and take your property unless the sheriff is willing to enforce that law. So you start by sheriffs. And I'll give you an example. It's a fairly live example. It wasn't long ago. The governor of New Mexico wanted to use public health law because that is omnipotent. That is the point. Medical martial law invalidates all rights, all of them. And that's what's happened. And she said, I'm going to use public health because guns are a public health menace, and we're going to confiscate all the guns. And you know what happened? Three sheriffs, it started with one who was a Democrat, said, no, you can't do that. The Constitution is our law, and there's a Second Amendment right you can't violate. Three then sheriffs, followed by eight. Finally, the governor backs down because the sheriffs in the counties, the law enforcement officers, refused to enforce an illegal law. Imagine the power if that happens nationwide. Imagine the power if there are sheriff's deputies that are sitting at the polling places who see somebody rolling up with a bus full of immigrants trying to vote. If we would get people in those positions who have law enforcement powers, who are constitutionalists, like Sheriff Mack. He's a good friend of mine, and I love him for what it is he did. We have constitutional rights because of him and the Supreme Court, who found in his favor. All I'm saying is that we do have that individual power, as is demonstrated by Sheriff Mack and the other sheriffs that defeated the outrageous New Mexican governor.
Yeah, and I know Sheriff Mack, and I love the guy too. He's been on the show time and time again for years, and he's a hardcore. I don't know if he's a Zionist, but he's a hardcore Trump supporter even to this day. So we agree to disagree
Be
on
that as
that.
it may.
Me and
Be
him
that as
agree
it
to
may.
disagree.
Yeah,
But
it's okay.
he's a good guy, but he's no longer a sheriff, so he doesn't have that power. But let me just say one thing.
But
about,
he does have a lot of power. About half of the sheriffs in our country are members of his
no, that's
constitutional
correct.
sheriffs
No, that's
association.
correct. But I'm just saying, when our representative government sells us out at every level, case in
It
point,
boils down to the sheriffs enforcing the law. It
but
really
case in
does.
point, the Senate and the executive branch, we don't get a SAVE Act. Okay, you know what we get? We get $1.5 trillion for the Pentagon and glyphosate immunity for Bayer. This is all under Trump's watch,
Unbelievable.
brother. And
Yeah.
in addition to that, I just want to say, given the midterms coming up, if we lose and the Democrats get in and they open the borders and all hell breaks loose, that's not on Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. That's on Donald J. Trump and the two branches of government that won't do the bare minimum for the American people. Furthermore, MAGA changed. Candace
What's
didn't change. Tucker didn't change.
wait?
I didn't
What's
change. MAGA changed. Make America Great under Donald
oh?
J. Trump
Sorry,
changed.
MAGA. Got
Make
it.
America
Okay.
Great Again
Yeah.
changed. We didn't change.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make that point. And boy, we got a lot else to cover. But do you want to talk a little bit about the Trust the Plan folk?
Well, wait. Trust the plan, folk, meaning those who are diehard who say trust the plan. Well, first and foremost, like I said, I don't trust in men. I trust in God, and
Correct.
because we are fallible, so we can never ever let down our defenses or let down our skepticism. We must always ask the questions, exactly what you and I are doing today. We're parsing the facts and arriving at conclusions. And whatever that may be, people are going to have their own thoughts, and that's the beauty of what it is we actually have, is the ability to do that. So if you safeguard the principles, the rest of it will work out. No different than President Trump. He's making his own bed. Sadly, I agree with your point. If he loses, if the Republican Party loses in the fall, it's going to create more barriers to his power.
Okay.
That's the design of our government. Having said that, all of it is so far out of whack to begin with. We really have to have wholesale replacement. That's the reality of the situation. It isn't working the way it was designed to work, and a lot of that goes back really about 100 years or so, a little bit more than that. Giving up dominion over the ability for us to make and coin our own currency. When we give power over spending to a central bank or central banks or owners of central banks, or even a one world regulator, the Organization for Economic Cooperative Development, we're abdicating our power to change our government to non-elected people, no different than Europe is today. And we wonder why it is they suffer.
Okay.
They can't even put their own candidate into governance.
Well, that's right. And let me just say one more thing, since you brought that up, regarding the coinage of our money, the issuance of our money, the Federal Reserve, 1913.
Yeah. Yes.
My words, not yours. Okay, I'm held responsible. I'm not putting this on
I'm
you.
with you on this.
But no, listen,
Hang it on me.
this is a fact. What I'm about to say is a fact. Okay, here's the fact regarding that and Donald J. Trump. Israel equals Rothschild, the Balfour Declaration.
Yes, that's true.
Israel would not exist where it exists were it not for the Rothschilds. Bibi Netanyahu equals a Rothschild foot soldier. I swear to you, that's the truth. Here's another truth that is undeniable. It's in the emails. Epstein equals Rothschild. And I'll quote, as you may know, I represent the Rothschilds. Trump does not want the Epstein clients revealed because they're his friends. And Trump loves Bibi Netanyahu in Israel. Meanwhile, we're $39 trillion in debt thanks to the Rothschild and Rockefeller money machine. So Trump, to me right now, is very cozy with the Rothschild machine. That's my opinion. I think it's factual. So you brought it up. I just wanted to get that off my chest.
That's fair. But hang on, but you did make some leaps in there, but that's okay.
Well, what leaps did I make? What leaps did I make?
Well,
that Trump didn't put an end to the war in Gaza and the genocide, and we supplied the bombs.
Something else in.
Well, because I'm fed up, and so are the American people, which is why we're going to lose the midterms, because people loathe this president. The people who voted for him loathe him right now.
Fair enough.
Except for the boomers. The boomers love him.
Let's go back a little bit, because we are still stuck in this false paradigm. This
the false right left paradigm. I thought Trump would save us, and I don't think I'll vote again ever.
Well, I understand why. It's an illusion of choice. But what I'm trying to say to you is do vote, but vote in your local elections, because at the end of the day, there is no law without law enforcement. Vote for your sheriff, vote for your school boards. You take the power back, because there is no law without law enforcement. They can say whatever they want to in DC, they can make it whatever rules they want, but federal law enforcement can't even come into a county to enforce what they're doing without the authority of the sheriff. It's their dominion and their control. So we start back with all things local. The rest of it we'll get to, but we got to work our way up. It's not a top-down solution. That's what we're all looking for, is the easy way. There isn't an easy way.
Yeah,
Right? That's what I'm trying to say to you.
Well, that's for sure now. I mean, that's for sure now. I thought there might be an easy way.
You have demonstrated that, Sean. You've done a very good job of demonstrating that. There is not an easy way. There's not going to be an easy way. We might as well suck it up and get used to it.
But that's why I feel sold out. Because there could have been an easy way. This man could be honorable, and he could put the American people first. He literally, the quote is regarding the American people and their struggles, economically speaking. What would you tell the American people? What do you think about the economic situation for American people who are struggling to pay their bills and put gas in their cars? He says, I don't think about it. I do not think about it. I think about only Iran not getting a nuclear weapon. So here's the thing about the trust the plan, folks. David X22, I know him personally. He's a nice guy. He was part of the lawsuit where we tried to sue Google and YouTube, and we all got kicked off of YouTube. He's a nice man. I have nothing against Dave. So I'm not trying to start a war with Dave or Auk, our buddy at And We Know. But these guys have a lot of influence and a lot of social media reach, a lot more than me. Okay? We're talking about people that get 3, 4, 5, 600,000 views on Rumble. So Dave's latest headline, the swamp is being drained. Okay.
Oh,
you tell me how that's the case. And here's Auk over here, who, by the way, my understanding is he's a nice guy too. I don't know him super personally. I talked to him only once in my life. Seems like a very nice man. But he, in his military days, I believe, was a component of PR in the military. I think that's kind of what he did in the military. I'm starting to believe these guys might be military intelligence, because unless they just are like my boomer friend, they believe the deep state, game over for the deep state, days of days, game over for the deep state. Can you please explain to me how that could possibly be true? Yeah. Considering everything I just accounted for?
Yes, I can. I mean, first and foremost, I don't agree that the deep state is through, but I do see progress here and there. I've got clients that are inside of government, and I've seen a paradigm shift in what we're calling the reconciliation or the reckoning. It's astounding to me that it took 6 years to get here, but we're now seeing inside the DOW. Actually, my daughter reminded me we should be calling it the Department of Defense, because that's what it's supposed to be doing, is defending our country. So inside the DOD and HHS and other elements of the government, including the ODA and I's office, they're finally grasping for the first freaking time in 6 years that this was an intentional hostile act, an attack on humanity, and it was coordinated amongst people within our government and people within other governments, and that there is a higher coordinated effort, what I call the owners. They're only now grasping this. They have been fooled, like a lot of the rest of us, including the permanent bureaucrats, that they're actually in charge of things when they're not. You and I and a whole lot of people listening here understand those who make money out of thin air are in control. But it's taken this long for people to wake up and understand, holy crap, it's really true. We're not in charge of things, but now they're saying we've got to reconcile this, because there is a loss of trust in leadership vis-a-vis the military. They don't want to deploy. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there were entire units, companies, if not battalions, who said, we're not deploying to go to Iran. We don't have trust in leadership. Why? Because you freaking poisoned us. You had an opportunity to stop it, and you didn't do that. So that's the kinds of things that are happening in terms of a change in governance and the way that it's being governed, and that there are bits changing around. It's taken a horrible amount of time, but I can assure you, I am personally seeing this happening within halls of our government.
Okay, we're going to turn track here in just 1 second and talk about Bill Gates, the boogeyman, the hardcore eugenicist.
How he's still walking around. Whose
parents were literally involved in eugenics.
Yes.
His father, the head of Planned Parenthood for some period of time. His mother up to some nefarious stuff too.
And his father before him.
Okay, so we're going to get there in just 1 second. Because this is all happening under Trump's watch, what we're about to cover next.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get a pass for what
Gabby,
we're going to talk about now.
Are you talking about like 3.5 billion going to Gabby? That's Bill Gates.
Yep. Hold on, though.
Dear God.
Trump does not get a pass for everything we're about to talk about. This is happening under his watch. But the murder of Charlie Kirk on September 10th happened under his watch. The FBI is not investigating. They're trying to pin it on a patsy. And just for the audience, may sort of feel, because I implied that Hegseth and this government, this administration, was somehow involved in that assassination. I believe that to be true, given that contract with Accurate Energetic Systems. If that turns out to be true, I'm not sure how we're going to prove it, because I think they cremated the body. They covered up the evidence. But that's what this...
Wait. I want to understand that. Cremated what body? I want to understand
Well,
this.
People believe that... Nobody knows where Charlie Kirk's burial site is. Nobody knows
I didn't
if
know
he was
that.
buried or cremated.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it's the most bizarre story of our time. And here's the difference between the JFK assassination and the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We all get to see the video. We all get to tear apart the evidence. We all get to do that, which the FBI is not doing. But in the case of JFK in 1963, we had to wait till 1970 to get the Zapruder film. Yeah. And by the way, we got
that's
the
our
internet,
First Amendment working, by the way.
And we're all a lot smarter now, and we know about false flags. So but with that said, for the audience, I am implying explicitly that I believe the U.S. government under Donald J. Trump, who embraces Erica Kirk to this day, who appears to have been involved in some way, okay? Because she doesn't care about a real investigation into who murdered her husband.
Seemingly not.
He loves her, and I just sort of feel like you're implying that, how could I possibly say that Trump is part of this, when it's his government and his FBI covering up the investigation into who really done it?
He doesn't own the FBI, but I think that your points are nonetheless fair. That if he's not, publicly saying to a guy that he called friend, a guy who flew on Air Force One with him, a guy who helped get him into office, hey, I want you to look into this and find the real killer. That's fair to say. Why is that not happening? And that question should be asked of him. And if it hasn't been asked, please ask it, because we need to understand that quotient.
Okay, and I'm going to press even further. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire on this, because why did Kash Patel have a spaz attack, reportedly? Okay, yes, I'm getting that second hand, third hand, but reportedly had a spaz attack when Tulsi Gabbard and her department wanted to investigate the possibility of foreign involvement in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and he shut her down. That's Trump's guy, Kash Patel.
Yeah, he was a Trump appointee. And remains so. Those are great questions.
How is Trump at the very least, not involved in the cover-up of the murder of the man who loved him and adored him and trusted him and helped him get elected, Charlie Kirk?
Well, so you would have to demonstrate that he gave the order to cover it up. He may or may not have. We don't know that. But what you can say is this: you find it very strange in species, as do I, that he hasn't come out on his own volition and done this. And I do find it very strange that he's, I haven't seen it, but that's because I don't watch TV, supporting Erica Kirk. What really bothered me about that is the stadium in Arizona, like the next day or 2 days later, filled full of, thousands, tens of thousands of people in this big to-do show.
Yeah, fireworks, glitter pants. No, they wanted her.
Do you know how long it takes to put that kind of crap together? How was that prepared in advance? And those are all legitimate questions. None of that am I disagreeing with you on. None of it. All I'm trying to ask you is, let's be careful about what is actually known and what isn't. Look, I'm trained as a lawyer. I try to avoid as much as I can speculation, because the way we get to facts, the way we arrive at facts, is by doing exactly this, usually in front of a jury. And then the jury says, this is what we think actually happened, and we're bound by that. So I want to make sure that what we're talking about is actually facts and evidence and not speculation. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and that's fair. And here's a fact. Regardless of all of the incredible evidence that Baron Coleman and Candace Owens and others have uncovered specifically, and I'm not going to recount it all here. You guys should have been watching that for yourselves, and I guess nobody really cares. I care, but here's a fact. Donald J. Trump's administration and his FBI are actively covering up the whodunit in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and they're trying to pin it on a patsy, and the 30-06 thing is bullshit.
Yeah. Yes.
Full stop, period.
Yep. All that's true.
We're not going to swallow this crap anymore. The American people, by the way, if I sound passionate today, it's because I think I have millions of Americans speaking through me who are
Good.
fed up with this guy and feel betrayed. And they believe him to be a modern day Benedict Arnold because he has given us a shit sandwich instead of the Make America Great platform he promised us.
I am so glad that when I cursed earlier, it wasn't going to ruin things for you.
The average American doesn't have $500 for an emergency.
No, that's shocking.
They're having a hard time putting gasoline in their cars and paying their rent. You got young people whose jobs are being displaced by AI, can't find jobs in the parking lots of grocery stores, saying, I just finished a 12-hour shift and now I have to deliver food.
So I work in the operating room, and I just worked a 12-hour shift in the operating room, and I cannot afford my rent. I can't afford my rent. I can't afford gas. I can't afford groceries. I can't afford any of my endless other bills that I am responsible for because I am an adult. After working a 12-hour shift. So you know what I have to do? I have to DoorDash.
Can I offer something on this, by the way? Because this bothers me equally. Yeah, AI, I couldn't be more against for a lot of reasons.
Zuck just laid off 8,000 high-level workers at Meta.
How is it we don't know this is happening? How is it? I was so happy to see college kids in their graduations last week and the week before. One of mine graduated too, and they had these tech AI guys giving speeches, commencement speeches, and they got booed. I don't know if you saw the one at University of Arizona. The guy got booed off the stage. I mean, 80,000 people all at the same time saying boo. It was fabulous. What I'm trying to impart is this: they need us. Right? Do you remember what happened with Bud Light when they had the transvestite?
Yes, I do. But Gates says they don't need us. We are very, very rapidly to the point where they literally don't need us. And Gates said it himself. We don't need human beings anymore. And Eric Schmidt, who just did that disaster of a commencement speech and was booed off the stage, the head of Alphabet, the head of Google, the head of this beast, a multi-billionaire.
Okay, good. So if
they don't need us, is the problem, Todd.
No. If that is true, then why do they spend so much time and energy trying to convince us or compel us to use AI? In the U.S. government, they've actually ordered employees, you must do this. So where did we see that before? Oh yeah, COVID. You must take this shot. You must stand 6 feet away. You must shelter in place. And what did we learn from that? Don't listen to these people. Make up your own mind. So what I'm trying to say is I'm loving this rebellion where the kids are going, yeah, we're not going to use your stupid AI. My point is this, Sean. Why would they spend so much time, energy, and money to mandate this and advertise it and force us to use it if they didn't need us? They freaking need us because they need our money to make this happen. And when we withhold it, what happens? They go south financially, and that stops them. So look at Warren Buffett, for example. Earlier this week, Warren Buffett said, I'm not investing in AI anymore.
$350 billion in cash.
Paradigm change in the tide. That is the power that we have. They do need us. They need our money, as does Warren Buffett, and he knows it. The power is us, and they wouldn't be wasting their time trying to convince us to use it if they didn't have to.
That's a very, very good point because Kevin O'Leary got his ass handed to him when he went on, was it Tucker Carlson, regarding that Utah data center? And the uproar is so furious in Utah that I think we're very close to a revolutionary tipping point because people are getting so desperate. And it's very clear to any thinking American, even people who are just kind of on the fringes and they're just waking up and they feel betrayed by Trump and they see these AI data centers.
Barbados, by the way, people get weirded out. This
it's not
the
Ukraine.
Barbados flag.
Amen. No, I realize that. But look, people are waking up and they realize that this country is in the process of building a track and trace, dystopic, nightmarish system like the Chinese. Except here's the thing. Unlike the Chinese, we don't get gleaming new beautiful cities. We don't get high-speed bullet trains. We don't get state-of-the-art healthcare. We don't get, in many cases, I think in China, free healthcare. And you know why that is, Todd? The reason is, and Jimmy Dore just made this point brilliantly.
I love Jimmy.
The other
He's
day.
Awesome.
He made this point brilliantly after Massey got ousted, toppled, after there was a coup in Kentucky. He said the reason communist China has all that stuff we don't have, and we have crumbling cities and $39 trillion in debt is because of this. Sure, it's a communist dictatorship in China, but in China, the corporations sit below the leadership. They don't get away with this shit. because in this country, the corporations sit atop the government and they do whatever they want. That's fascism. And, well, you're shaking your head no, but explain to me why our cities are falling apart. We can't afford jack crap. We don't have one bullet trained anywhere in our cities, and they have gleaming new cities, state-of-the-art healthcare and bullet trains.
Okay, first and foremost, they have gleaming new cities because our government for the last 30 years has sabotaged our country in favor of China at the behest of the owners, who pick the winners and losers, even as it relates to entire nations. Huge amounts of foreign investment. You look at the balance sheets of anybody, BlackRock or otherwise, Bank of America, whatever, made enormous investments in China, and that's where the money came from. It is true what you're saying about the Chinese government being over top of all the corporations. That is true. And I will tell you this, back in the early 1990s, I spent my young legal career undoing the Soviet model economy in Poland because it was exactly that state-run economy. I encountered it in Cuba back in the 1990s as well. The point is that they are incompatible. And that's why I freaking hate this public-private partnership BS, because government's job is to appease the people. Corporations, companies' job is to appease the shareholders and their customers. Those are two different things, and they never work together. It is horrible. And you are seeing, by the way, the very same mistakes our government is getting involved in when they take equity in private companies as they are doing now. It is the death knell. It is the death knell of our country.
So in this country that sold all those jobs out, the Rockefellers and whoever else sold all those jobs out and built all the manufacturing in China, their stock prices in Walmart and everything else went to the moon. They enriched themselves. The people got jack diddly.
Well, I don't know if jack diddly, but I will add.
We're 39 trillion in debt. What did we get in exchange for that?
Well, you and I are still here.
We're still here, but we
still have a country, Sean. We still have the ability. We still have the ability to control our own destiny. You seem like you want to throw it to the wind.
I don't want to throw it to the wind.
You want to give the responsibility to somebody else. It's your responsibility, and it is my responsibility.
It is our responsibility, and we elected a man who lied to us. In my opinion,
that may very well be true. So it is our obligation to rectify that one way or another.
All right. I know we're going long. Can you go another 10 minutes?
Sure, I'll go another 10 minutes.
All right, you're very kind.
But I know
I'm
to
heated.
say something.
I know I'm heated, but you remind me of my boomer friend, and I think you're just sort of playing devil's advocate today.
No, I love it. No, well, I'm trying to be fair on all sides because that's the way that I look at things. I think that there's good and bad in most everything, and I just want to be very clear and specific. And I don't like generalities, and I don't like speculation a whole lot. I just want to get to the meat of the matter. It's just the way I work. What I do want to say is this. The other interesting part as it relates to China, because you specifically made reference to healthcare, I do find it fascinating, aside from using poor Uyghurs as body parts.
Yeah, I know. I just thought of that. You're right. I know.
Aside from that, I would say that they do go to the hospitals and they get acupuncture and ancient Chinese medicine that actually works while they make the drugs for the sick Americans who still believe that Big Pharma's got their best interest in mind. They must be laughing their asses off at us, poisoning the shit out of us as they make drugs for Merck and Pfizer and everybody else.
I'm not saying China's great.
I was wondering, Sean.
Well, no, look, man, in some ways, what China has done for its citizens is more than yes, they're organ harvesting over there. But guess who else is doing that? Israel is organ harvesting Palestinians. And Israel is up to their eyeballs in sex trafficking and child trafficking and human trafficking.
All bad. You will not hear any pushback from me on any of that. But I would also add to you this in China, as it relates to social credit score. And now people are seeing what is in store for us vis-a-vis AI. And thank God for that, because they're repressed in terms of their media, and yet somehow videos leak out. That is the power of individualism. It's easy to get trapped, to look at a government and say that represents the people, when in fact it doesn't. People are people the world over. God love those Chinese that took the risk of doing that, because they probably end up as body parts if they get caught, to show us the consequence of being digitally banned in China, right? People, it's not a few, it's thousands and thousands of people living under bridges who don't have access to water or transportation or jobs or anything else because they offended the state. That is where this public-private partnership ends. And it's easy to look at China and say, great, look at these gleaming new cities. But you got to look under the skirt and see the people living, in camps along the river, no different than the United States, right? Because they are outcasts, because they offended the government. The problem is we have allowed governments to run our lives. We have allowed them to do our thinking for us. My only point is it's up to us. We can elect somebody. At least we have the power to get rid of them. Try that shit in China. Try to get rid of Xi and see what happens.
Yeah, I know. But try to get rid of Gavin Newsom, and what do? They steal the election. Try to get rid of Karen Bass, where Spencer Pratt is running for mayor. Let's see how that turns out. Meanwhile,
at least we have a Second Amendment, Sean, and a First Amendment.
That's right. You just hit the nail on the head. This Second Amendment thing is going to come into play in the near future if it keeps going this way.
I mean, our founders put that into the Constitution for a reason, that if our government should ever become tyrannical, it is our obligation, in fact, to overturn it.
You know, I just had this conversation today with the contractor who was here for our water heater, and we were like-minded. And I said, you know, the only problem is once they get these AI data centers up and running, if they get this dystopic nightmare future that they're planning and building right now, it's going to be very hard to resist with your AR-15 when they have drones.
I wouldn't be so sure about that. People are mighty clever.
They are resourceful. They are resourceful.
Smart.
And look
at these people. Hang on. Look at these people in Africa. Right? The UN's running down there to the Congo to get $50 million worth of UN people to go and deal with the Ebola situation. The Ebola situation they're going to deal with is the Africans not wanting their goddamn shots. That's the problem they're dealing with. Is now the Congolese are burning down the UN camps. So that is what local action looks like. That is when people go, no, we're not taking your shit anymore. These are the kids. These are the young people in the Congo, in the middle of freaking nowhere. And they are saying, we've been poisoned since 1976. We're not taking it anymore. That is where this leads. This conversation, a lack of trust in leadership that you have expressed very well, that's where this leads. So be careful. Those of you in power, be careful, because we are not far from that.
Well, the other thing I want to do is just warn the police and the would-be foot soldiers that would embrace all of this and be the plantation owners, the enforcers of the New World Order. Case in point, the woman in Trinidad, Texas, I think it is, who was just arrested and spent the night in jail for a Facebook post about the polluted water in the city. And she showed the water coming out of her tub, and it looked like mud. And she was arrested for her Facebook post. So it's going to be harder. It's going to be harder and harder to resist when the entire apparatus becomes completely tyrannical. So
we can't let it happen, right? We can't let that happen. But I would say this, particularly in the local courts, and criminal law is usually a function of the state, right? Federal law really shouldn't apply in criminal cases, hardly ever. The point is that people that violated COVID laws, it might have taken 3 or 4 years, but the vast majority of those people who actually went to trial had all that stuff dismissed, even in England and other places, because it was without merit. But they had to go through the hardship, no different than the J6ers who sat in jail for 3 years in some cases. They toughed it out. They got their pardon because they were righteous and shall be. But sometimes we have to go through a little pain to get to the right result. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, and this next clip I want to play, I want to just make a point real quick. Under Trump's watch, what you're about to see is happening under Trump's watch. It's his country. He's the president. It's his administration. No arrests of Burla, Stefan Bancel, Tony Fauci, Bill Gates. That brings me to Bill Gates. Everybody knows about this Lone Star tick and bioengineering these ticks to poison you so that if it bites you, you'll no longer be able to eat red meat.
No, it's worse. Those ticks are full of Lyme disease, Rocky Mountain spotted tick fever. They are pathogenic and genetically modified. This is no different than Ebola. They probably have parts of Ebola in them. No, this is not just about making people stop eating red meat. This is about killing people.
Let me play this clip, and Todd sent it to me. I've seen it.
And I want to say something about this when you're done. Go ahead.
So many people have seen this clip, and there's some debate about, by the way, we know they're dropping ticks on us. So that's
I want to explain because I've litigated this issue.
Okay, so that's not an urban myth, but we know they're dropping ticks.
It is not a myth.
As it relates to this woman and her husband and their private property, I just want to play this. I was just going to make the point that there's some question about whether or not these guys are dropping ticks.
Doesn't matter.
Or are they testing for groundwater for future AI data centers? Who knows what they're doing? But this is private property. Private property. Listen to this.
I have no clue who these people are or what they're doing, but they're on our fucking top field. Who the fuck? What are y'all even doing? Oh, no, not you. Don't close your fuck. Literally, in our top field.
Todd, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I'll just pause it there. There was another video I saw of a chopper, and it had a big, like a cable like that hanging with a big round thing. The diameter of this thing is, I mean, it's just this giant, like a ring thing that was, I don't know what it's used for. And somebody said that they were surveying for groundwater. So what do you think that chopper was up to? I don't know.
No, it doesn't make any difference. What I want to impart to you, both as a pilot and as a lawyer, first and foremost, aircraft, when they leave the ground, are governed by the FAA. That's the providence of the FAA, DOD, and international agreements called ICAO. When an aircraft touches the ground, even by extension of a cable like that, that's local jurisdiction. That's the county. That pilot just trespassed on that person's property. And the local sheriff, whoever it is, law enforcement in that region, has the ability to go and prosecute that guy for trespass. And if he dropped ticks, he could charge him for attempted murder, battery, amongst other things. Harm to the property, harm to the people. And that is what must happen. To stand there and look at this helicopter flying away and go, oh, well, I guess there's ticks. It doesn't matter. If an airplane is dropping ticks or a helicopter is dropping ticks or anything else, and even the USDA say, yeah, we're dropping ticks, we're dropping rabies baits, that is a violation of local law. Just because they're feds or supported by the federal government to do this, USDA, they don't get to skate. That pilot is culpable and should be charged, as is anybody and everybody else on that aircraft. It is up to us to do something about it. That lady needs to run down and make a criminal complaint, and if for no other reason, to use as evidence for a civil complaint, to sue them for trespass, amongst other things.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. But in defense of that lady, though, I'd be panicked too, and my first reaction would be
that pilot's lucky he didn't get shot.
Yeah, my first reaction would be to videotape it and freak out like she was. I mean, maybe her next step was to call her sheriff. But I mean, this stuff is just happening so quickly that the American people are whipsawed.
That's why we're having this chat.
I know we've gone long here. Let me just do one more share here that you sent me. I've seen it. Jeff's, I'd like to call him a friend. I've known him for years and years and years, but at least I had him, but I had him on the show again recently. And in my opinion, he was right about voting. He said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, brother. It doesn't matter. Why, you can vote for Trump and nothing's going to change. And I personally feel like he was right. I'll give him credit. Listen to this.
Some things have changed.
Well, listen to this regarding ticks and tick warfare.
They're also launching basically the next COVIDs, which is going to come in the form of ticks this time. Ticks that cause a rare, dangerous red meat allergy are spreading. What precautions can you take? That's interesting. Ticks that cause a red meat allergy. I could have sworn I heard that somewhere once. At Davos.
So for example, I have milk intolerance. And some people are intolerant to crayfish. So possibly we can use human engineering to make it the case that we're intolerant to certain kinds of meat, to certain kinds of bovine proteins. And there's actually analogs of this in life. There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you'll become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems through human engineering.
Yeah, and they even had Tucker Carlson, who's controlled opposition, come out and tell you, because that's part of what controlled opposition does. They tell you some of the truth. They put it in your face. Most people won't even listen.
It is the same organism that causes Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and that's the most deadly tick-borne disease in the United States. It also was a germ that was being weaponized by the U.S. military at the time, and they tried to stuff it in ticks. I mean, so what is tick weaponization? So in the interviews with Willie, what he said was, I spent over a decade in the biological weapons program, a contractor to Fort Detrick.
I'm going to pause it at Fort Detrick, come back to Todd, and we're going to let him go because I know we're running late. But Fort Detrick, the same Fort Detrick, what happened with Fort Detrick after 9/11 and the letters mailed to the Senate, threatening letters with anthrax? Where'd that anthrax, that weaponized anthrax, where'd that come from?
Fort Detrick.
Was it Fort Detrick? Yes, it was.
Yeah, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear warfare. Yeah, that's what they do.
Yeah, so that's your government.
Yes, and by the way, there is a lot of evidence to suggest that they knew or had actual involvement in COVID and the pathogens that came therefrom, including the shots. Those shots were created by DARPA, Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, Pfizer. Who else was it? Missing one. Anyway, Moderna. All four of them. There were contractors. The DoD hired them to make the COVID shots, those pathogens, those poisons. That was our elements of our government did that. So I don't think I'm, rah anything here. I just want to make sure we're talking about facts, because facts will be sustained, speculation won't be. So look, there's fault to be had. Not disagreeing with you on that. I'm not disagreeing who's in charge when these things happen. All I want to do is make sure that when we go to redress these things, we've got the facts in hand. And that's what we're doing, is laying it out. And I think Jeff did a good job of that. He points out, well, here's WF talking about genetically modifying people and the reasons they're for. I mean, we can take them at their word. They said the words. No different than Bill Gates said, hey, we could use vaccines to reduce the Earth's population by 15% if we do a great job with it. Let's take him at his word. How that man is still walking around, I don't know. Other than this, the owners of this world have chosen him to do this job of democide. And our government is obviously incapable, as is every other government on the planet, from doing anything about it, because that man's still walking free. If that doesn't show you what a fictitious paradigm we have in terms of our governance, nothing else will.
Okay, and I just want to make the point as we wrap it up. I'll give you the very last word, and I thank you so much for being generous today. Todd's a busy guy. We're at least 20 minutes long now, so my apologies, Todd. But look, I've worn my heart on my sleeve here. I
love it.
It's the way I do it, and I don't know if it's good or bad. It's just the way I have to live this life.
It's great.
I want to be right with God, and so I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve. And Bill Gates is walking free, bioengineering ticks. The government is helping him drop those ticks on we the people. This is Trump's government. So
yeah, it's fair.
Show me any glimmer of hope. What is your, for the people listening who agree or disagree with me, and there'll be plenty of both, what glimmer of hope do we have under Donald J. Trump? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing?
Well, those 80,000 people in Arizona State University Stadium saying, screw you with your AI.
But those are the people who are fed up.
Exactly.
I'm saying Trump.
Trump will be dealt with. He serves us. Right. And that will get rectified because he is the one that is enabling the AI. He is the one that's putting money into it. The stupid act, the big, beautiful bill that sought to not regulate them. The people will work this out if we've got the conviction to do so. And that's the point. That is the glimmer of hope. Stop looking for that guy to solve your problems. He's not going to. We solve our problems every day, putting food on the table and everything else. If you work for the government, you're trapped. If you're dependent on the government, you're trapped. Stop freaking looking to them to solve your problems. Look internally, look locally, look in your family. How the hell did we conquer the wilderness in the first place? It wasn't some government did that. It was people did that. So look to God, look to yourself. Stop abdicating your responsibility to other people.
100%. Did you see the movie by Mel Gibson, The Passion of the Christ, when it came out?
I never did see that. I want to, and I need to.
One of the most powerful, probably the most powerful film I've ever seen. Hollywood, every Hollywood studio shut him down. He paid for it himself.
Beautiful.
And here's the thing. On Good Friday, 2027, the release of his new film, the follow-up, it's called The Resurrection of the Christ, is going to be released.
Right.
And I think it is going to save more souls than probably anything else in the history of our lifetimes.
I pray so.
And it will be so incredibly powerful. And I was watching an interview with Mel regarding this, and he said, I've wanted to make this for a very, very long time, but this is a tough nut to crack. This is a tall order, and I'm not sure if I'm up to the task, but I'm willing to step up to the plate. And it's a $200 million budget. The movie will be in 2 parts. Wow. And I'm telling you, man, when this thing gets released on Good Friday 2027, he said it took him 7 years of him and his brother to write, along with the guy who was behind the film Braveheart. He said, wanted to get it done quicker, but turns out the time is right. It's coming out at just the right time.
I pray so, and I pray for his deliverance and success. Beautiful.
All right. I know you got to go. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Sorry we went so long.
Likewise. No, man, I love it. Any opportunity to do this is welcome. Thanks, Sean. I love you, brother.
Thank you.
God bless.
You'll still talk to me again in the future?
You joke with me.
All right. I love you.
You
Thanks,
too, man.
Todd.
So long.
All right, guys, there he goes, Todd Callender, attorney Todd Callender. You can find him over on Cloud Hub. He's the CEO, one of the busiest guys I know. I don't know where he finds time to make time for me, but I sure do appreciate it. And you can find me at sgtreport.com, thelibertymill.com, thephaser.com. And I appreciate you all so much. I'm going to continue to wear my heart on my sleeve because I don't know any other way to do it, guys. The times are dire, and there's been a little voice in my head. I call it the God voice. He's been telling me these are sobering times. Remain sober, remain watchful. That's his message to each and every one of us. God bless you all.
I fully believe that this is a push for our own future digital enslavement. The things we purchase, where we go, what we're allowed to do, what we're allowed to say on social media. And to me, that sounds a lot like Revelation 13 and Daniel chapter 2. That's what's coming. Enslavement through tracking, enslavement through your money being worth less, and enslavement through what you're allowed to buy and speak about.